processors, the Ryzen PRO 4000G series to be exact, the perfect processor for business desktops. But before we dive into that, let's take a look at what we've accomplished so far in the client compute leadership position that we have with Ryzen products. So whether it's through high-end desktops, through Ryzen Threadripper, mainstream Ryzen, through third-generation Ryzen or 3000 series Ryzen desktop CPUs, or mobile processors in that notebook space, Ryzen has taken a lot of popularity and a lot of traction in the market. We have a lot of products to be very excited about, and today I'm very excited to announce to you our new products dedicated towards business desktops and ensuring everybody's going to have a more pleasant experience running Ryzen on any professional desktop. Obviously, before we need to talk about performance of these parts and the specifics, we need to identify the key challenges that any business has and a lot of our customers are facing. Obviously, that is asking for more performance. Second pillar is asking for the best in security. And thirdly, and not to be underestimated, is those business needs and that seamless deployment into any business with AMD's Pro processors. And we've done exactly that with our AMD Ryzen Pro processors. We have a poll set up. I hope you can see all this. And the actual question is, how familiar are you with AMD Ryzen desktop solutions? So I'll give you a few moments to answer that one before you can click submit.
Yeah, so everyone just take a couple of seconds to answer this. So very familiar, my customers are interested, familiar, but looking forward to learning more during today's presentation. And very little, it's a new product or topic for me, so I'm excited to learn. If you all could just take some time and answer this, and we'll check out those results before Martijn jumps into the content for today. Okay, great. Let's check out those results. Looks like most people are familiar and looking forward to learning more today. Awesome.
That's very good. Then they're at the right spot. So
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah. So we were talking about those modern IT challenges, which is obviously performance or productivity, security, and that business needs we talked about. We are targeting just that with the AMD Ryzen PRO 4000G series products, the new standard for modern business PCs. We do that through power-efficient performance, up to 31% faster than the competition. Breakthrough power efficiency, obviously, is also one of those key factors here. We have the most advanced technologies like 7 nanometer, Zen 2 architecture, and obviously the most modern security. So let's take a look at one of our first overviews, which is actually showing you all the specifications of the new Ryzen 4000G products. As you can see, when we compare that to our previous generation on the left column there, left table, you can see that moving from the 3000 series, our Ryzen 3 Pro 4350G and GE part are now a 4-core and 8-thread part. So previously that would be a Ryzen 5 part. So we're setting the bar even higher this generation for the number of cores and threads. So as you can see, the Ryzen 5 Pro 4650G and GE is a 6-core and 12-thread part. And we are introducing a new 8-core, 16-thread APU, which is the Ryzen 7 Pro 4750G and GE. So that is up to 4.4 gigahertz boost, available in a 65-watt or a 35-watt package. And if you compare that to a competitor on the right, you can see whether it's 9th gen or 10th gen, we are very competitive, not only with our previous generation parts, but these Ryzen 4000 series parts, as you will find out later in this presentation, will take that performance crown and show you that these are perfect for any business desktop. So taking a look at the new high-end part, the Ryzen 7 Pro 4750G, you can see that with benchmarks across the board, you can see that many benchmarks being used in that professional space to compare performance. We are taking that leadership with this part. Wins across the board. It's not just a great step forward over our own generation of products, but also if you compare it to anything out there being available right now. We assure you that when you look at these benchmarks, it's not just about Ryzen 7, but as you can see later on, Ryzen 5 and Ryzen 3 Pro 4000G products are showing similar results. So to top it off for the Ryzen 7 part, we talked about winning performance up to 31% faster than the competition and unmatched power efficiency. And this is where things do get a lot more interesting, as cool and quiet is definitely one of our focus parts for these Ryzen PRO 4000G products. We understand that businesses, really depend on obviously high performance, but at the same time low temperatures, silent operation, and a purely stable system, right? So we set out to make sure that these processors not only deliver as much as we could through the power of Zen 2 and 7 nanometer in terms of performance, but also industry-leading power efficiency. And as you can see, running lower temperatures allows for silent operation, while at the same time getting more performance and being more power efficient. So for us, it's very important that partners hear this part of the story, because this breakthrough in efficiency is not only allowing for more performance, it can also result in a lower total cost of ownership for any business. And that's just how good Ryzen PRO 4000G series is. And I promised you Ryzen 5 results. If we take a closer look at that, you can see similar wins across the board if we look at those business benchmarks or comparisons that people do, whether it's through past mark results or even everyday usage like Microsoft tools, for example, like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, you name it. These Ryzen PRO 4000G series are such a huge step forward compared to our previous generation products and compared to anything out there right now. Similar for the Ryzen 3 4350G, you can see that it has performance simply that the Core i3 doesn't at this point. Similar wins across the board. So you can see for those 3 new CPUs, it's really opening up a lot more performance that we didn't deliver on before. But, we're showing significant wins in the 4000 series. So now it's time to take a little bit of a sidestep into the technologies that power AMD PRO. And if you look at anything that is out there available to you and your customers, which is vPro, obviously, from the competitor, you will see that AMD PRO has similar features on offer and sometimes even more. For example, the AMD PRO security is one of our main features for these AMD PRO processors. I will go into a little bit more detail about this later. We have AMD PRO manageability, because it's not only about security, it's not only about performance, it's also to having these processors seamlessly deployed into any business and having IT managers giving the easy job of maintaining the systems, right? And then obviously through business ready, there is also longevity. That is one of our key focuses, but also image stability and so on. So a comparison here, if we look at Intel vPro versus AMD PRO, AMD PRO is enabled on every AMD PRO processor. So it is not available on select models. Every single AMD PRO processor gets all the AMD PRO features. And the beauty of it, AMD manageability can be managed both AMD and competitor systems on the market. So if you have a customer that is using a different brand system right now and is thinking about moving towards AMD, you don't need to swap all the systems at the same time. You can start, extending that lineup with several AMD systems, and later down the line, when you're happy, you can completely swap towards AMD. But you can manage both systems at the same time. It allows IT managers to build a PC fleet right for their business, and then it's built on open industry standard that gives us a lot more feedback on AMD manageability. A lot of big companies in the world are using the Dash manageability, that is the open standard behind it, and that gives us a lot more feedback and a lot more improvement on the quality of the manageability standard as well. So talking about business ready, we mentioned it before. Besides performance and a large focus on security, we want AMD processors to be seamlessly deployed into any business. This means the focus is really on longevity and quality here. And I can tell you that from image stability point of view, we want IT managers to rely on, if they deploy a system now, that at least 18 months ahead in time, they can seamlessly deploy more systems based on the same images, whether it's software, OS, etc., being available for them. Same with the actual hardware. So AMD PRO processors availability is at least 24 months of planned availability for a stable enterprise, because we recognize that not a lot of commercial customers are swapping their systems every 2 or 3 years. We want to make sure that these CPUs remain available to them once they want to extend their lineup in the course of time. And then for the AMD PRO processors, we have enhanced Q&A testing and more validation going on, even more than the consumer products. So we already have the highest standard we can think of for AMD consumer Ryzen processors. But with the actual Pro processors, this starts at an even earlier stage at the drawing board actually already. We have multiple and more checkpoints in place to measure quality and Q&A. And that all leads to the best silicon we can deliver. And we want to make sure that reliability is our number one focus on AMD Pro processors because, you know, customers' downtime, that is definitely something we do not want. It could potentially hurt any business. So we want to ensure that we deliver the best of the best silicon into the AMD Ryzen PRO processors. Then availability for AMD Ryzen PRO. Since these products are not available through e-tail or retail, these Ryzen PRO 4000 G series desktop processors are exclusively available since July 21st for commercial system integrators and OEMs for the non-Pro versions. We will not have processors in a box for these CPUs. We will only have multi-pack, which is the image in the middle. That is 12 processors and coolers per box. The benefit here is that it's a lower price than a single CPU, obviously, and you'll have less waste. And then second option would be tray. That is 60 processors per box, meaning even less waste and obviously a bit more easy on the price as well, since it doesn't include a cooler. So let's take a close look at the features comparing AMD PRO versus our own Ryzen consumer products. The good thing here is that both of them really benefit from that Zen 2 architecture. They have the same 7 nanometer, same Zen 2 as we spoke about. So anything you've heard from the consumer side, whether it's gaming or an all-in-day use of an office PC, all the things you've read from media, all that praise, that is basically fit into these AMD PRO processors as well. They both have the AMD Secure processor. That means we have security from a hardware level built into the Zen 2 architecture. We have a 3-year limited warranty, both on AMD Ryzen PRO and since the introduction of 3rd Gen Ryzen also on consumer. And what sets these Pro parts apart from the consumer parts is when we go more in depth about the security features like AMD Memory Guard, for example. And this feature really protects any business against malicious attacks, whether it's remotely or locally, when somebody gets access to your system, unwanted access, and protecting that memory through encryption, ensuring that the data dump is not possible. So your data is always secure. Then we also focus on extended availability, what we talked about earlier. And we have feature and connectivity consistency. That is something we hear a lot of feedback on as well, is that our focus is to ensure that features from both the processor as closely working with our ODM, with our motherboard partners, to ensure that the I/O, for example, in terms of USB ports, in terms of software used, that is consistent. So if employee 1 is now using a system and then let's say 24 months time, the employee starts switching to a newly built system, he can expect the same feature and connectivity consistency when he's using his drawing tab, for example, or multiple input devices, that he can simply move those over to the new system and continue working on that. Same what we see with the Pro parts and consumers. Obviously, we are building that on our highest quality standard. And as we mentioned, the commercial quality takes that one step further. So if we then take a look at business motherboards, for example, we picked out ASUS here as an example. They also have commercial lineup of motherboards, which focus on AMD forward and backward processor compatibility. You would also find that on several consumer boards, but we also have AMD manageability with wireless support, and this is very model dependent if you choose a consumer board. This is, however, mostly available through any of the commercial boards. The commercial boards also focus on ECC support, should you or your customers need that. We also see commercial quality taking to the next level on the motherboard side of things as well, same as extended availability and extensive support. So once we take a look at the available chipset to feature these Ryzen 4000G products, as we call Renoir, we have introduced the B550 chipset, which enabled PCI Gen 4 for the consumer parts. However, for APUs, they will be running at PCI Gen 3, as you might know, as the Radeon graphics is running on PCI Gen 3. But what the B550 does allow is for more connectivity through USB 3.2 Gen 2 compared to B450. It also supports for dual graphics should you need it if you're not pairing it with an APU, which is the Ryzen 4000G series, or you want to swap it out for a non-built-in graphics CPU later down the line. And obviously we have the X570 motherboard available at the same time. So talking about those motherboards, we use that example of commercial boards in the market. You can see there's an extensive lineup available to support any of your business with the Renoir products, with the Ryzen PRO 4000G series products. There are several motherboards out there supporting a lot of those commercial features, AMD manageability at the same time, and really focusing on longevity and obviously quality. So one thing we do want to highlight with these Ryzen 4000G products is that they only work on the 500 series chipset. So we want to make that clear to you all. If you're choosing a chipset to go with Renoir or with the Ryzen 4000G products, choose an X570 or a B550, and later down the line, an A520 as well. So, great new products with improved frequencies and more cores and threads than ever on an APU based on the same Zen 2 architecture, which has gotten so much praise in the DIY and gaming space. With Ryzen PRO 4000G series, you can now show your customers and partners to not only have a faster desktops at their disposal, but also enjoy a lower total cost of ownership at the same time. Tiana?
Wonderful. So we have one more poll question for you guys. So after listening to Martijn's wonderful presentation, will you be introducing AMD Ryzen PRO 4000G series processors for business desktops to your customers? The first answer is this is perfect for my customer. I'll see if my customer is interested, and I still have more information to find out. So take some time to answer that. Martijn gave us a lot of great information about these Pro processors, and it's all super exciting stuff. So let us know. Awesome. So let's check out these results. Oh, it looks like it's they'll see if their customer is interested, and a lot of them is perfect for their customer. So we love to hear that. Wonderful. All right, Martijn, you can wrap it up for us.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you all for your answers. So I'll leave it at the top 10 reasons to go for AMD Pro processors. Besides, the great performance that these Ryzen Pro 4000G series are delivering, we're obviously focusing on the technology leadership, moving things forward, what we've done in the consumer, in the DIY and gaming space, really wanting to focus on that commercial space now, enabling any small business or a larger business, frontline office, etc., to really enjoy faster performance, better sense of security, but also seamless deployment into any business. Really making your customers happier is our goal. And with that, I'll hand it over back to you, Tiana.
Wonderful. Thank you for that presentation, Martijn. We're going to start Q&A up. So we have some questions in from the audience, and I'd love to get to them. Just as a reminder, make sure to open up that Q&A widget at the bottom of your screen and submit your question now. Okay, great. So first question for you, Martijn. Do Ryzen Pro processors require additional or other drivers to set up compared to non-Pro Ryzen products?
No, that's quite easy. It's basically working the same way as you would find in any Ryzen product. So you simply install the chipset drivers as you're used to with any Ryzen product, and you'll be able to install the Adrenalin drivers for any APU. So basically similar to what you do in a consumer or gaming system. So there is nothing else needed to get this set up.
Awesome. Another question that we have here. Motherboards with an A520 chipset, do they support the Ryzen 4000G series desktop processors?
Yeah, we're launching the A520 soon, and our goal is to have these supported as well. Yes.
Wonderful. Awesome. Thank you. So those are all the questions that we got in for today, and we're just out of time for a Q&A. So if we didn't get a chance to answer any of your questions, feel free to email us using the Contact Us widget at the bottom of your screen.